Good evening, guys, and happy Monday to all of your sunshiny faces. I didn't end up getting up that super early today. I wasn't that super productive today. I sort of was, but at the same time sort of wasn't. I was telling you guys how I was going over a lot of that stuff on like my blog. I'm gonna get some of my old pictures and things like that organized, of like my old hauls. Oh my goodness, guys. So I was going through, so I have a box of actually all of my old receipts from all of my like grocery hauls and couponing hauls and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know why I'm just really sentimental sort of about that. Like I've kept all of my grocery receipts, like I said, from when I first started couponing pretty much, and like really early on couponing, and I also have all of the like pictures even before I started posting on my YouTube channel, which was my Coupon Kid of Chicago, which was where I first started posting. I used to like just at least take pictures of almost all of my hauls. I think with the exception of my first, like I started couponing, like I said, it will be 10 years ago in March, I think, or no, in April. And I think I started maybe doing like taking pictures in either May or June, so it was like shortly after, like maybe a month or two after I had started couponing, I started taking pictures. And I think it was again sometime in the summer, June, July, maybe August. I think it was August that I actually started posting the videos like along with that. And so it's so weird though to see like how bad of the quality of the videos were, and also the pictures too. Like the pictures are super hard to see and make out some of this stuff too, but going through it, I don't know why I felt so like throwback like today, and I was like, oh my gosh, it is so bizarre too, because I can go through and read an old receipt or look at one of the old like pictures and remember going to the store and actually like remembering that specific event. I don't know why, it's so weird. Like I was looking at one and I was like, oh yeah, this was the one where my grandma took me. I remember she took me couponing a couple times when I first started back in like again 2011. And there was one where it was at Jewel, and I remember it was in-ad coupons for a couple of different things. And I remember one of them was on the butternut squash, and I didn't know what a butternut squash was at the time. Like I knew what squash was, but I wasn't sure between the butternut squash, I think, in the acorn squash or spaghetti squash or something like that. And so I was like, Grandma, you're gonna have to tell me which one it is, because I don't know. So like I remember that very specifically, and I remember also she took me one time to Ultra Foods to go couponing as well, and like, you know, she was just totally like, I'll just go along for the ride. I remember though from that Jewel haul that she took me to that one time, I think it was that one, or it might have been, no, it was a different one. First one I was talking about was, I think, later in the afternoon. There was a different one where she took me during the day, and I remember her saying that she was gonna go buy like lottery tickets or like scratch off tickets or something like that, and she like left me, you know, to like do my couponing for couple minutes by myself while she went and bought her lotto tickets, and then came back and found me. And it happened was she went and got her lotto tickets, then she went out to her car and got a sweater and came back in the store because it was so cold, because like the middle of summer. Like I said, guys, I can remember these little details, and like I said, like reading a receipt or looking at the haul picture, I can remember these little tiny details. And I remember exactly which, you know, like if I didn't have the pictures or the receipt, I wouldn't remember which haul it was from, but because like I put effort into remembering it, sort of, I think, is how, like, you know, I could have just thought, oh, that was any old, you know, Jewel trip I took with her or something like that. But I remember this one specifically, and I think we also had to get like hamburger buns or something like that too, something that wasn't on sale, and I was super upset about it, but we needed it for like dinner or something like that, instead of like couponing. Like my haul was going to be super cheap, like out of pocket, but then we had to spend like a whole $1 or something like that on, like, it was either bread or hamburger buns or something like that. and I was very not happy about it. But anyways, yeah, so she had left, like I said, went and got her sweater out of the car and came back and found me. And I remember we were talking about like how it's, you know, like 90 degrees outside, and it's like, feels like it's like 40 in the grocery store. And I was like, they blast the air conditioning. It makes you not want to, and she was even saying too, like to the extent of like, it makes you not want to shop in the store when it's that stinking cold. Like you want to get out of there as soon as possible. And so like, you know, like it's nice when you first walk in, you're like, ah, but then once you've been in there for a couple minutes, you start like full on shaking because it's so cold. And so like I said, I remember she went out to her car and got her sweater and came back in because she didn't know how long it was gonna take, but we only were there for like a couple things. So I remember that, like I said too, like there's certain like ones that I remember, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that was a night grocery haul, or you know, or couponing haul or whatever, because most of the time me and my dad go in the morning to just avoid the crowds. We do it more now because of COVID, you know, because you know, it's just less people in the store kind of thing. But like I was saying, I can remember like, oh, that was a, you know, we went and did that grocery haul at night. Or like, I remember, like I said, guys, it's so bizarre. I remember recording certain videos, and like, you know, like I said, sometimes it's just like that, it imprints it sort of, and somehow like sticks with you. Some I'm sort of like, I don't really remember that or whatever, but others I'm just like, oh yeah, that was, I remember having to find that thing or looking for that thing, or like, oh yeah, I was also gonna get that but we couldn't find it. Or like, I remember if a cashier missed a coupon and I, you know, like ended up having to pay an extra $1 for something. Like, I don't know why, it's so bizarre, but like I said, I totally remember, like I remember the really good ones and some of the, you know, not so good ones too. Like, or if I had a really bad cashier and it was just like a really bad trip, you know. So like I said, it's just, it's so weird, but I can totally remember, like I said, looking back at like a picture of one of the hauls or a video that I did, or again like the receipt, I can totally like remember it, and it's so bizarre to me, but I do. So I was, like I said, going over a ton of that stuff today, and I will probably still be working on it, and I was like, I need to get to bed because it's like past 1 o'clock right now. So I got totally distracted actually. I was all done and finished up by about like 11:30, and then I found a whole bunch of pictures I hadn't seen in a really long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm stuck going through all of this stuff. So yeah, there was that, and I also I didn't end up getting to too much else. Like, I didn't edit today. I did some dishes this morning. I was telling you guys too that I was trying to, in order to learn a little more German, or try and, you know, help, I guess, me learn a little bit better, was that I was trying to watch like TV shows with German subtitles. So I did that today. I actually learned a new phrase from, again, watching the show and then also like looking it up afterwards, and to kind of remember it. But that's the other thing too, guys, is that I have, like, my memory is really good, so sometimes I feel like actually watching something and correlating it with, like, you know, a specific event sort of helps me remember things. Like, that's just sort of how, like I said, my learning style is. Like, everybody has a different learning style, just like, you know, you guys have learned about like different love languages. I think also the same with like learning, like you're either an audible learner or a visual learner, or you know, sometimes you need to do things, I guess that would be like tactile learner, you know, or whatever. But there's different types of ways too that you learn, if it's like, you know, memorization or you know, writing down something over and over again. But like I said, for me, like, visual, I think, helps me remember things. So again, when I go and I'm watching something and I, you know, see it and, you know, see the words on the screen as I'm reading along sort of with the events that are going on, but then also watching it, it helps me, like I say, kind of retain that. So like I said, there was like a new phrase that I learned that I didn't know already from, you know, doing my actual German in Duolingo, and then also a new word that I learned. And again, I think that that's sort of helpful because it helps me not only like hear it, so I'm hearing it, the English that I'm listening from the TV show, and reading the German subtitles and watching it all at the same time. It's sort of like all of that all at once, and so I think that that really helps me sort of grasp that understanding and knowledge. But the other thing too that's a benefit of doing it, like I said, watching a TV show, is that you get to see too, because like sometimes if you type something into like Google Translate, it might not give you the correct like term or necessarily like way to use it sometimes too, like if you're typing like out a phrase. Whereas like, you know, for the most part, if you're like seeing like, okay, somebody's ordering food, you know, or something like that, you kind of are learning the correct way and or polite way to sort of do that by reading or listening, depending on how you're learning it, by doing it through like a TV show or something like that. Versus again, if you're just typing something into Google Translate, it might give you the, you know, not polite way to do it, or maybe incorrect in that situation, like you wouldn't ask somebody that question, or something like that. And that was funny too, because I was reading that in like one of the Duolingo posts, as they were saying, like, you know, different languages obviously have different ways of saying things too. So like if you say like, you know, I want ice cream, you know, or something like that, you know, you go to an ice cream place and you're ordering it, you know, they would probably understand what you meant, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like it's the correct way to say. You'd probably like, can I please have ice cream, you know, when you're ordering it. You know, and again, there's certain ways and polite ways to say things also when you are addressing people too, you know, your waiter or waitress. There's different ways to also correctly ask people certain things too, like I said, and depending on who you're addressing, which is again, I think, a little bit different from English. But I'll be honest guys, I kind of sort of wish, so like there's like the formal way to say you and then the more informal way to say you. I sort of wish that in English we had that, because in certain situations I don't know when to call people like Miss or Mr. or Mrs. Like because like, you know, they're older than me, and so like, you know, like, or like a boss or something like that, you normally use the phrase like Miss or Mr. But in German, at least it seems like you sort of normally use, you know, somebody of higher authority than you use the formal like pronunciation of you instead of just like the informal, which would be more like talking to a friend or whatever. I sort of wish that English had that, because like I said, in certain situations, for one example was that back when I was doing the football website, like this was several years ago, there was one lady and I was addressing her and I was like, I don't know if I should call her like Mrs., but like everybody else there, nobody else called her like, you know, they all called her by her first name, but I'm like the youngest person there, and I felt like it was just really weird. Like I was, you know, again, maybe a year or two out of high school. I didn't feel like it was appropriate for me to be calling like somebody that's older than me, like more my parents' age, by their first name. Like I feel like I still should be addressing them as Miss or Mr., but you know, like somebody like that. And so it was really weird for me. I don't know, it was just sort of my first experience, and now I'm like, again too, in certain situations I don't really know, like should I say like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. or Miss, you know. In high school you're so used to calling your teachers by, you know, Mrs., Mr., Miss, that again, it was sort of weird for me. I was like, I don't know, because this person's obviously older than me, but I don't really know if I should again address them in that situation, you know. So I don't know, it was really bizarre to me, sort of, because it seemed like it was more like a formal basis, sort of. So that's why, like I said, I didn't really know. I sort of wish that in English there was that, that you again sort of had a proper way to address somebody if you were saying, like, you know, oh, you, and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess not that, but I like sort of, again, how do you say them? Like when you call them by their first name, do you address them as that way or not? Just as a sign sort of as respect too. Like that's why I'm like, do I call that person like Mrs. or do I not? Or, you know, like, I don't know, it was really weird. And so I feel like if you use the formal form of you though, it would still show like respect without having to be like, oh, you know, just kind of like we're buddies, but you know, and then not having to call them Miss or Mr. or whatever. So I don't know, like I said, I almost wish that we had that in English, because it makes some situations that I know I have been put in a little bit easier, which is, like I said, kind of interesting also when you're learning a new language, is like to learn proper ways to speak to people as well. Which is obviously different from our own, and it makes you go, wow, I sort of wish that we had that in our language, or that, you know, things were maybe easier, because like German, it seems like there's, I don't want to say not as many words, but like certain words you sort of cut out and you can mean the same, it can mean the same thing too in certain situations. So without going into so much detail, that's just sort of what I've learned. I'm like, oh, I don't have to say that if I mean this thing. And so yeah, it seems, like I said, like, I don't know, Matthew said too, like we were talking about this, that he says that a lot of people also think that English is a very hard language to understand, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess it sort of is, but I mean, I don't know, because it's the only language I've spoke up till now. So, and still really the only language I speak, because I'm only still learning German. But anyways, guys, yeah, that's what's been up with me today. Like I said, I definitely need to go get in the shower, get to bed. I woke up, honestly, early today. I was so stinging tired for unknown reasons. I almost fell back asleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I woke up at about, like, 10 o'clock or something like that. I slept in late, and then I again was like up, and I went to bed early last night too, but I almost fell asleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My mom was having that like little procedure done today, and so it was my dad had to take her though and everything like that, so they went around 1 o'clock, and when they were gone, the house was so stinking quiet I almost fell asleep. It's like I was actually reading something and I almost fell asleep today at 2 o'clock, and I was like, this is when I know I'm actually tired, is because I'm just randomly falling asleep, but I have no clue why that was. And then it was around like 7 o'clock at night, I got this like, all of a sudden, all of my energy for the entire day at 7 o'clock at night. I was like, now I want to get all this stuff done, and that's why I started going through all my, like I said, the receipts and all that kind of stuff, and all of my haul pictures and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, now I need to go to bed. So anyways, guys, I'll see you all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye, guys.